Here's a snapshot from Nebraska way back in 1910. This photo, taken on the 1st of March 1930, shows a wonderfully good-natured football crowd in West Ham, London. They're passing a young boy over their heads right to the front so he can get a better view of the game. Here's a fun one. This photo shows the champion watermelon eater at the 4th of July celebration in Brooklyn back in 1935. Bet that was a messy competition. Alright, so this photo takes us back to September 3rd, 1935. That was the day of Malcolm Campbell's last record-breaking run before he hung up his helmet, so to speak. He was behind the wheel of the Bloodbird 5, and he really went out with a bang, setting a speed record of 485 kilometers per hour. Incredible stuff. Here's a fun one. Check out this photo from the 1920s. Can you believe people were watching movies on planes back then? Yeah, that's right. They've been doing this for at least 100 years. Amazing, isn't it? Alright, so what happened next? This photo takes us back to the 1920s. Here's a photo of Led Zeppelin in front of the Starship, back in 1973. Here's a photo of George Aird, an aircraft tester having a very close call back in 1962. He barely escaped death by launching himself sideways from his plane. Can you believe it? He actually fell through a nursery on his way down. He broke both of his legs in the process. Here's a photo from 1926. It shows Miss America getting a hair treatment. Alright, check this out. This photo shows some cool motoring fashions from the Isle of Man back in 1908. Here's a photo of Bruce Lee doing two-finger, one-arm push-ups. This was probably taken sometime during the 1970s. Here's a photo from the 1880s of some very happy new parents. And get this, they're the parents of quadruplets. Imagine the excitement and the work. Here's a photo of test pilot George Aird. He flew an electric Lightning, specifically the F-1 aircraft. Sadly, he had to eject from his own in Hatfield, Hertfordshire on September 13, 1962. Alright, here we've got a vending machine, but instead of snacks, it's selling light bulbs. Pretty handy, I'd say. Here's a picture of a postman posing proudly with his unusual vehicle. It's called a pentacycle. Designed by Edward Burstow, it has a big central wheel and 4 smaller wheels for stability. The idea was to help deliver bulky parcels. This photo was taken in Horsham, England, way back in 1882. The Beatles meeting Muhammad Ali back in 1964. This photo really captures the grit of Chicago's working class. You've got an iron worker balancing high above the city during construction. This was taken back in 1969. This is a powerful image of civil rights activist John Lewis. You can see him holding his head during the attack on what became known as Bloody Sunday. He and other protesters had just crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama, when state troopers attacked their peaceful demonstration. Alright, check out this cool shot. It's a B-32 Dominator bomber factory back in Fort Worth in 1944. Pretty amazing to see the scale of that operation. Here's a photo of a stewardess. Taking a look at a new uniform proposal for Scandinavian Airlines. Looks like it wasn't approved. This photo was taken in 1964. Here's a shot of a girl wearing a mask holding her doll. Isn't that sweet? The Carlson sisters, who were known as the Wrestling Fat Girls, put on a boxing match for paying customers way back around 1925. This photo shows Calvin Coolidge back in 1927, after he was officially adopted by the Lakota Nation. And check out the headdress. He looks pretty distinguished. This photo shows a granny flasher from the 1950s. Pretty wild, right? This incredible photo shows a mother and son watching the mushroom cloud from an atomic test in Las Vegas. That was back in 1953, a time when this kind of thing was, sadly, a little more common. Here's a photograph of Aboriginal Tasmanian Fanny Cochrane Smith. She's singing into her phonograph back in 1903. If it weren't for her efforts to preserve her culture, we wouldn't have any audio traces of the Tasmanian language. Here's a photo of James Naismith, the man who invented basketball. He's holding an early basketball in one of the baskets they used back then. This picture was taken sometime before 1939, and we don't know the exact date. Here's the last photo of a Tasmanian tiger from the year 1933. It's a real reminder of what we've lost. Back in the 1940s, picture this. Guys in shorts and cowboy boots serving food to women at a drive-in restaurant, all the way over in Texas. Seems like a fun time. This photo shows a picket line for the Humane Society back in 1940. You can see them protesting at 42nd Street and 6th Avenue. This photo takes us back to around 1932. We're looking at the south front of Broadcasting House, which was the headquarters of the British Broadcasting Corporation, or BBC back then. It's located on Langham Place in London. Here's how it looked on Disneyland's very first day. This photo shows the parking lot absolutely packed with cars. It was the opening day, and as you can see, everyone wanted to be there. This was in Anaheim, California on July 17, 1955. A truly historic moment. Here's a cool old photo. It shows Jack Dempsey, Harry Houdini, and Benny Leonard. They were hanging out sometime in the 1920s. Alright, so this photo is called The Eye Behind the Lens. Here's what the very first Tour de France looked like, way back in 1903. Dunking a donut into coffee without getting your fingers wet, that used to be a total fantasy. But it became reality back in 1930 when amateur inventor Russell E. Oakes created this ingenious little device. Ah, summertime, isn't it the best? This is a portrait of Princess Marie of Edinburgh. She would later become the Queen of Romania. The photo was taken sometime around the 1890s. Here's the image. We've got a sweet little boy dressed up as a policeman, and he's holding up a car. Seems he's letting a whole bunch of geese cross a country road. This adorable scene was captured around the year 1934. Here's how they used to record music for Mickey Mouse cartoons back in the day. This photo was taken at Walt Disney Studios in the United States back in 1932. Here's a fascinating photo. It shows a zebra-drawn carriage cruising along the streets of London back in 1910. Can you imagine that? We see Russian soldiers, exhausted, catching some sleep. They're in Prague, and it's the year 1945. And look, they've got a little puppy curled up with them. A truly sweet moment, isn't it? Here's a picture showing a man who's been badly tarred and feathered looking for medical help. We don't know the exact date this was taken. Here's a lovely picture of a Victorian lass attempting to ski. Here's a picture of John Fitzgerald Kennedy and Jackie Kennedy back in 1953. This photo shows members of the Young Pioneers, which was a Soviet government youth group. They're putting on gas masks as part of an attack preparation drill. This was taken in the Leningrad area all the way back in 1937. Amidst the bombs and the air raid sirens, the Windmill Theatre kept going. They kept putting on shows, music, reviews, even ballet for the people of London during the war. It was 1940. Check out this amazing shot. It's a photo of Dutch cyclist Piet van Kempen, and he's circling the track at Wembley Stadium. This was during a 6-day cycling event back in London on the 25th of September, 1936. Here's a photo from 1946. It shows a young child suffering during a famine. It's a heartbreaking image. This photo shows a moment of incredible bravery in London during World War II. It was July 30th, 1944. An English soldier is pulling a little girl named Barbara James from the rubble of her home. It looks like it was hit during a series of aerial bombings. Here's a photo from 1918, showing a really heartbreaking scene. You see parents trying to help their child who's suffering from rickets. They're dragging him through what's called a healing tree, hoping it will provide some relief. This photo shows nuclear bomb shelters from 1958. All right, here's a photo showing tourists back in the mid-19th century scaling the Great Pyramid of Giza. Looks like quite the adventure. This photo shows driving really becoming a team effort. It's from 1943, and a car's gotten stuck in almost 7 inches of snow. You can see it on East 38th Street. This incredible photo shows U.S. troops climbing down the side of a Coast Guard manned combat transport. They're getting ready to pile into the landing barges at Empress Augusta Bay in Bougainville. It's the moment the invasion is starting, way back in 1943. Here's a picture from 1905. It shows Geronimo driving a car. We're looking at a famous photo here, showing African-American flood victims. They're lined up to receive food and clothing at a Red Cross relief station. What's really striking is the backdrop. Right behind them, there's a billboard. And it's got this incredibly ironic message on it, boasting about the world's highest standard of living. There's no way like the American way. It's a powerful image, isn't it? Here's a photo of Marie and Pierre Curie, the physicists and Nobel Prize winners. This was taken shortly after their wedding in France back in 1895. Here's what we've got. Thousands of Boeing workers are gathered in front of Boeing Plant 2 for a special ceremony. They're celebrating the shift from B-17 to B-29 production. And this photo was taken on April 10th, 1945. Here's a photo of a Langley researcher checking out a Sperry M1 Messenger. This was the first full-scale airplane they tested in the Propeller Research Tunnel way back in 1927. This is a photo of Albert Einstein. He's posing for a bust created by Arthur Lowenthal back in Berlin in 1930. This photo shows a railway signal box back on the 31st of December, 1931. We see a signalman hard at work, managing the controls at Welwyn North Station in Hertfordshire. You can see an Elner train approaching in the distance. All right, let's take a look at this old photo. It's a group shot of military electricians. This was taken way back in 1918. This is a really powerful image. You've got soldiers embracing, a moment of connection. It's from 1945, and it shows the meeting between American and Soviet troops on the Elbe River. Here's a photo of the Antarctic snow cruiser. It was built in 1940. This photo shows a public urinal in Paris, way back in 1875. Here's a shot from back in 1951 featuring the contestants of the world's most beautiful legs competition. Here's a photo of a kid wearing a monkey mask. This picture was taken in the 1920s. Here's a look at a photo from 1891. It shows several teepees with a school for Indians in the background. Here's a shot from way back when. We're looking at a lady and her cat in Times Square, all the way back in 1956. All right, let's take a look at this photo. It's behind the Gare Saint-Lazare in Paris, and it was taken way back in 1932. This photo shows a doctor examining a prisoner at Buchenwald. The year was 1945. On September 25, 1957, 9 African-American students made history. They became the first to integrate Little Rock Central High School. The Michelin Man, you know, Bibendum? Well, the original design was a lot more intimidating. He had these really exaggerated features, a stark contrast to the friendly character we're familiar with now.